what a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal and crypto link in the info box below this video. Now, the live debate will start in about 10 minutes time, but in the meantime, we've got Anthony Riley currently joining us. So I'll say a quick hello to him. How are you doing, Anthony?
Sleeping warrior.
How you doing, Sleeping Warrior?
All good, all good. I've sent Zinda a link. Zinda wants to join, so he may be joining imminently. He may not. If he does, then we'll beat him into submission.
See how slow the chat goes, which is on screen at the moment for the backup debate show channel, which is Flat Earth Debate. There will be a link in the info box, so if you're watching this on the premiere on Nathan Oakley 1980 and you do want to watch live or participate, then you need to subscribe to the Flat Earth Debate channel, which is the link in the info box below this video.
I see you've had a little bloom in subs in the last 24, 48 hours.
A little bloom? You're not kidding. Absolutely massive. So in the space of a week, well, technically not twice, but I've been on Patricia's show twice with Uncurved, then Jaren with obviously and observably Flat Earth. And then while that was happening, Red Pill did a video about National Geographic and pointed out some of the points that we made about the angle of attack and shouted me out. And then today I woke up, having been at 9,800 subscribers when I went to sleep, to find that I was over 10,000 when I woke up, and I was like, oh, what's going on? Something weird's going on. And then as the day progressed, I watched Anthony's and Ranty's simulcast about Blackpool Tower, and somebody in the chat, I think, or maybe it was you, I can't remember who, mentioned that he'd given me a very big shout out on a video about the YouTube censorship. So they've changed the algorithm so that we don't show up in the searches anymore for Flat Earth. I always assumed that was the case anyway, and told people continually share the show. It's the most important thing you can do, in light of things like Ranty pointing out that we never see Roxanne as a suggestion. And it was only because you, personally, Anthony, had recommended Roxanne the Globalist and I's channel that I'm now subscribed to her in Incommunicado. So, ultimately speaking, we are now in a position for certain where we must share each other's material. We've got to shout each other out because we're not going to get promoted by YouTube. But that very fact was detailed, along with the numerous bogus copyright strikes I'd had on this channel by Red Pill Philosophy. And he used an example that was 262, something like 264, the debate where Mick West joined, and we took him to pieces. And his claimed science of the globe model, reification fallacy, assuming R, was pointed out to him. And he used that snip and pointed it out, pointed his audience towards that debate with a link, which has obviously massively improved my subscription base. So if you have joined recently from Red Pill Philosophy channel, thank you very much indeed for subscribing.
And if you feel like subscribing to me, go over to my channel and subscribe to me, and don't go to Ranty's channel because he's got more subs than me and I introduced him. I'm feeling deprived.
Yeah, so that channel is called Nathan Space Oakley. Definitely thank you for recommending that, Anthony. No, Sleeping Warrior. Sleeping Space Warrior.
Just about to scream down my screen. My microphone.
Yeah, Sleeping Warrior channel.
Don't subscribe to Ranty Flat Earth. You don't. He doesn't need your subs.
No, we've got to shout each other out, and there's obviously the main participants of the debate are Ranty, yourself, Plain Truth, Chocolate Saying. I'm going to say Jose. Don't care what you say. Jose's a pretty, full-on participant. I don't care what his position is currently. Good. The fact that he's taken a different position makes it all the more controversial. So Jose, I would count in that list. Arwin, obviously, as well, included in that list. I'm sure there's a few people that you would count as well. Any I've missed, Anthony?
By shouting out by saying don't join Ranty, I am actually shouting him out. So don't.
I realise that. I realise.
Don't be subscribing to Ranty Flat Earth.
But you should, though, definitely go and subscribe to Ranty Flat Earth. He is ace. As is Arwin. As is Chocolate Saying. As is the Plain Truth.
Or Chocolate Asian, as Ranty calls
Chocolate Asian. That was comic. So this bit goes out to the Nathan Oakley audience, so technically this is kind of important airtime that we should really be utilising. So tell us about your observation. I'll give you a bit of a preamble just to get you into the flow of it. So about 2 years ago, you went out to observe the Isle of Man, and then got in touch with Ranty off the back of a comment he had made. He went out, bought P900, you went together, went and observed, not the Isle of Man, sorry, Blackpool Tower, get it right. And yeah, so some of the advice that you were given from the Globe side of this discussion was slightly, what's the word you would use, Anthony?
Dishonest.
Dishonest. Yeah, okay.
Well, basically, it was my first observation. So basically, I'd worked out how far I needed to be away from a tower that's 518 feet tall, and you need to be about 30 miles away for it to drop behind the apparent curvature of the Earth. And I went to watch it, and I could see it. And then a short time afterwards, Ranty pops up because he started doing observations of Blackpool Tower from Southport, I think it was at the time, or near. I can't remember exactly what he'd done. He'd done an observation of Blackpool Tower from somewhere close to where he lives. And I'd obviously presumed wrongly that he'd seen my work and he was like a fan, like a sub. And it turns out that he hadn't seen any of my work, and he didn't know what really I was all about. And I'd assumed because of the timing that it was like an intentional thing, and it was intentional, but it was unconnected. So I dragged Ranty into Flat Earth, and we basically proved that we could see Isle of Man from Blackpool Tower from 30 miles away, and that's not possible if we live in a sphere. Now, basically, what happened was a guy called Dazza the cameraman, who is a disingenuous, lying sack of shit. He literally told the ballers that I'd lied about a particular element of the claim, which they then used to debunk the whole thing, and it's nonsense. And at the time, I was a bit green, and I didn't really know how best to deal with these. Didn't know who these people were, but I knew that they were lying, and I didn't know how best to take this point on. Now, looking back, I'd just laugh at them and just literally just represent it over and over again and show that this is nonsense. But back then, when so many people are accepting that you've lied and you don't even know how this is even, you don't understand the politics of what's going on, but you realize that you're somehow a victim, but you can't work out how. And then looking back, and for me, it's obvious this guy lied, and they all bought it. So they all think that I lied about one aspect, which isn't even true, but even if it was true, would not debunk the observation. And basically, this other bloke, this new guy's put out a video, and he's done it from 4 locations around the coast. And basically, it kind of destroys your belief on a sphere if you think that we live on a sphere, because it clearly does not.
Let's have a look. Let's have a look then.
Well, I haven't got it queued up. I'll have to just give me a sec while I shove this in. I haven't got it queued up. We've got 9 minutes to go before we start.
Well, that's right. While you're queuing it up, no, just get it on now. This bit's recording and is going out to the main bulk of the audience, and when we go live, it's it'll be a massive anticlimax in that respect. So don't worry about getting it out to the live audience, because in many ways they're slightly less important, dare I say it. What am I saying? They're not even listening. Who cares, live audience? You can't hear me right now.
Yeah. I just need to put this file in. Brian Cox on Einstein. There we go.
Fair enough. But massive kudos to all watching in the premiering audience on Nathan Oakley 1980. Thank you very much for joining us. And yeah, smash that super chat. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Be sure to share the show and all that good stuff, because that's what it's all about. I'm not even going to bother sharing the live section, Anthony. While it's on that tiny little channel, there's just no point. I'll just share the hell out of the main premiere show when that goes out.
I appreciate the time delay for what you're doing, because obviously you're killing a bit of time while I find it. Here we go.
Excuse me, not at all. How dare you say that promoting my channel is killing time? Absolute outrageous, sleeping warrior.
Right, so if I screen share now, this is the screen. You can see that?
Yeah, let's have it nice and big.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to start off with the plug. Right, so it's from a guy called Exploring the Plane. That's his channel. He's only got 99 views on this, and it's glorious because this basically, whatever you interpret this as, it ain't a sphere the size that we're being told. This is the reason why I have got the caveat where I say, do you know, it could be a bigger ball. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying there is the interpretation here that supports the possibility that it is a bigger ball, because it does look a little bit weird. So what we'll do is we'll go into the video now, and we'll just basically, should I go through it?
Well, when you say look a bit weird, is it by chance obstruction from the bottom up as opposed to earth curve that you're saying it looks a bit weird? In other words, you're automatically extrapolating out obstruction from the bottom up into earth curve. Is that why you're saying it looks a bit curvy?
Well, I'm just saying that there appears to be an argument, perhaps, for the interpretation that it is earth curve that might be. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it does look that way. So,
hold on. I just want clarity. Argument on the interpretation. What does that mean?
Well, it's in the wrong place if it is a sphere, because where they tell us it should be is nowhere near where we're.
You've got to be more. Sorry, I'm going to really hammer you on this. What are you specifically referring to? What's in the wrong place?
Right, I'd have to play the video, so let's go through the video. I'll give a quick verdict.
No, just tell me. What are you specifically referring to when you say it's in the wrong place? What's in the wrong place?
The horizon. Here we go.
Oh, the straight line where the ground meets the sky. That's in the wrong place. So nothing to do with earth curve then. You just automatically, for this example where you say there could be an extrapolation into earth curve, is based on you automatically assuming that obstruction from the bottom up is actually earth curve. Okay, moving on.
Well, that's the tower over the horizon. Now, there is a hard water line, and there's no mirage to it, or there doesn't appear to be that layer of dirtiness that we see. And whatever's going on here, I can see that there would be an honest interpretation by an observer that this is perhaps going over, not saying it is, just perhaps going over some element of earth curve. Maybe there are other explanations, and we can't tell which is which. But if it is earth curve, this is in clearly the wrong place. This is not like it says. This does not agree with the science books, because you shouldn't see any of this at this distance. It's too far away. He's gone beyond the limitation of the Earth's curve. So it's not acceptable to say that this is Earth curve the way we're told, because it isn't. So basically, I think the best thing to do is basically just show what he shows right at the start. He's got 4 observation points. I think this is where he shows it. Oh, no. Maybe it's right at the beginning. He does 4 observation points around the coast, around the, I'll call it a cove. It's a very big cove. And basically he starts off with the closest one, and that's what he can see, right? That's expected on the ball Earth model. And it's a lovely picture. It's absolutely fantastic. And that's from like 20 miles away. And we weren't expecting, or he wasn't expecting to see any curve. But then as he goes a little bit further around the coast, he goes to... Now, this is probably, in my opinion, the best footage that he's got here. Because what he's trying to do is, if you look at where he is, he's at Leasowe Castle in Wirral. And he's looking up to Blackpool, and he realises that if he finds the land in the middle ground, that's Formby Beach. It's just off to the left, so it's very easy for him to locate it. So geographically speaking, it's perfect for him. But check out what he sees. Now, this is basically, it's almost 30 miles away, right? You should only see the bulbous part of it peeping up above the horizon. But you can see the whole of the roller coaster. None of the roller coasters should be visible. None of it. You can see down to the streetlights. You can see the pier art. This is not possible on a sphere. This does not support the sphere model at all, because none of the roller coasters should be seen. But you can clearly see all of it. So then he goes to Hoylake, which is like my focal point. This is where I was most interested in. And then let's see it quick. Here we go. So this is his Hoylake one at 30 miles. He goes a little bit further than mine. I did it at 29.75. He's doing it at 30.25. So he's doing it right in the furthest tip. Now this thing is tiny on the horizon. It's a little tiny pinprick. So when he gets to the observation, let's put it on. That's what he can see. Now the only thing he should see is the viewing platform right at the very top. The observation deck.
I've got to just interrupt again because you keep doing it. When you say the only thing you should see is based on the assumption that the Earth is a sphere with a radius value, and it is that sphere that you have presupposed that is causing an obstruction from the bottom up. So we're not seeing Earth curve. Anthony's just making that logical step for the audience like a globe head would. Just want to make that clear.
But what you can see is this pale blue bit of water. You've got the hard horizon, which is the obvious part of where something is coming to an end. And then you've got something else in the background that's a very similar colour to the sky. So for me, the question is, well, what is this? Is this the water or is this a mirage? I think it's probably the water, and I think that's probably a hard water line based on my own experience of what I've done. Now, depending on what the tides do, and we get massive tides here, we get 27 feet tides. Now, if the tide's on its way in, it's going to create a bulging effect as it's on its way in. I don't know what state the tides were in on this video. Doesn't matter. The point is we still see it, and we should not see it. The only thing we should see is the viewing platform, which would be this horizontal line, and that should be sat on the horizon. And really, because of perspective, it should be that small, we shouldn't even see it. But anyway, we can see it. So something's clearly awry here. And then
no. There's nothing awry. We just see it. That's perfectly acceptable. I see it, and I'm happy to say I see it. It's there. You've taken a photograph of it. What we should or should not see is not dictated by what a model says we should or should not see. So when Anthony says we should only see to the viewing platform, based on the presupposition that we are on a sphere with an Earth radius, which is their trick. That's what they do the whole time. Insist that you start your conclusion with the outcome. In other words, you start by assuming that you're on a sphere. So we're going to go live, Anthony, so I'm going to just pop you on mute and we'll start the show.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the live Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of the shows while they premiere, not live unfortunately, but there is a PayPal and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now, we are joined by Sleeping Warrior. How are you doing?
Woohoo!
Good to have you.
To be honest, Nathan, it's pretty nice that we've got a nice show to come back to. It's been a while. I know we had a show yesterday, but it was a bit of a calamity because basically I didn't think any trolls would be trying to like destroy the show in the background. So what I'll do is I'll open up the back chat and normal service can resume.
Indeedy. It's just you and I, so we can rattle our way through housekeeping quite quickly and hopefully even answer some of the questions with a slightly more elaborate answer than no or there is no distance, etc. Hey Mike, how you doing? I'm really good, yeah. Thanks for having me. Ah, it's good to have you. Hey, Mike.
Hi.
Just in time for housekeeping. Any signs of curvature, Mike?
No. No.
Yes.
Oh, yes, you say. Hey, Zinda.
Hi, everyone.
Good to have you. We've just so you both know where we're at, we've just had a yes to any signs of curvature. Only the first housekeeping question, and Anthony thinks he's got a yes answer. So should I be displaying you, Anthony?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, you're up.
So, most people know my position, right? I'm quite neutral. I argue that it's flat on the debate show because obviously it's the debate show. But my position is that I don't really know what it is, and I'm open for it to be anything because once you realize it's not a sphere of the size they tell us, anything goes, right? And I've always said we could be on a bigger ball, and basically this guy called Exploring the Plane, he's basically done the same observation that I did. Of Blackpool Tower from 4 different locations around the coast of northwest England, and in doing so, he starts off at Freshfields at Southport, not contentious. Leasowe is not much further than Hoylake, but is contentious because basically what we see at Leasowe shouldn't be anything like what we actually see. Hoylake is basically the same observation I did, and then Talaka, which is the evidence of curvature. Possible curvature is the bit that's interesting.
Hey, the plain truth.
Hello.
Hey. So what I'll do, because this
hold on a second, just pop yourself on mute, Travis. You've got a terrible connection.
What I'll do, because Well, because this is not so much about Hoylake. I'll put it to the bit where it is most interesting because of the curvature claim. So this should be it. All right, so this is the one from Talaka. Talaka's North Wales. And basically from this distance, at this height, 33.6 miles, nothing of the tower should be seen at all. Absolutely zero, right? Ballers don't understand what zero means. Ballers perceive that zero can mean something. Well, zero means nothing, right? Let's be clear with terms. Zero means nothing. So it should not be seen from Talaka Beach. Now, this guy had been in touch with me already, and he told me that he could see it from further around the coast. But he's done it from Talaka, right? Which is far enough for that. This is the point where he should not see at all the tower. Now, this is basically what he can see. So he's looking across the horizon to see what he can see. And I know where he needs to look for it. So does Ranty. And we can see that there's definitely summit on the horizon there. And that is the tower. And when he zooms in, we can see that we're seeing like certainly a big chunk of it. Now, I'm not saying that this is the curve of the Earth, but I am saying it is supportive of curvature of the Earth. And I'm saying it's completely in the wrong place because that exponential curvature is pronounced. It's only an extra 2 miles, but that amount of curve that builds up in that extra 2 miles is huge. But the problem is we see it. So, and there is an argument to suggest perhaps that maybe that is possibly the curve of an Earth. Maybe I'm not saying it is. Can't prove it, but it does support the idea because where's the rest of the tower?
Hold on. You take me through that then, please.
Yeah.
Well, that's the housekeeping question. You've just on the pre-show you did the same thing, so I had to continually stop you and say there is an argument. Well, what is that argument? How do you go from something being obscured from the bottom up to Earth curve? I know how you do it. You'll assume R.
Well, the thing is, we know that with Ranty's boat observation that it squashes from at the very bottom end. I'll pause it on that screen. Right, bear in mind we shouldn't even see this, and there is a hard water horizon that is obscuring the bottom of it. Now there is also a mirage at the bottom that's cutting off the bottom X amount of distance. So we're still seeing the angle thing, the angle point, the angular limitation, but we are also seeing a hard water horizon. Now, I'm not right. The question is there any evidence of curvature? The answer is this does support curvature. That's
it doesn't.
The answer.
It is. No, it does not. This supports and is obstruction from the bottom up, not curvature. The extrapolation to make it curvature takes the presupposition of an Earth curve. So I'm not going to just accept that this is evidence of Earth curve when you're showing me something obstructed from the bottom up.
Yeah, but it's only fair and neutral that I present evidence that does support their argument because the ballers don't want to come in the show because
but you won't do it. But you won't do it. You won't actually take us from, okay, I'll do this. I did it with Jose yesterday. I'll do it with you. If you're presenting it on their behalf, no problem. Well, how do you get from this obstruction to Earth curve?
Okay, hang on.
Good morning, guys.
Chocolate. I'm just trying to get the
Nathan, welcome back.
I need to know what the distance was.
Good to have you too, Chocolate. Thanks for joining.
I'm hoping he pops the distance up on screen now. No,
right,
I must have just missed it.
No offence, Anthony. I've just got a long pause after my very pertinent question. So, how do you go from the bottom-up obstruction to Earth curve?
Okay, so it's 33.6 miles away. Let's go to a curve calculator, and we'll go to the one that doesn't add all sorts of nonsensical refraction. So what is it? 33.6.
Okay, so straight away there's a problem, right? Can you just read the second line down after the title, please?
Second line down. This app calculates.
No, second line down.
The Earth is a convex sphere. Or do you mean the Earth curve calculator line, which would be the top line?
It says the Earth is a convex sphere of radius 6371 kilometers. That's what it says. So this isn't proving Earth curve. This is demanding that I presuppose we are on a sphere, i.e., you're using R.
I know, but Nathan, I have to presuppose I'm on a sphere to prove I'm on a sphere.
We don't live on a model. This is nonsense. This is not proof
But
of
if you
Earth
don't
curve.
let me make a question, how can I ever present evidence of curvature, Nathan?
What if I don't let you automatically demand that we are on a sphere to begin with? How are you going to prove you're on a sphere? I couldn't care less.
But I want to demand that we're on a sphere.
Well, you can. You can believe it as a religious faith and go in peace in our you trust. This is nonsense.
This will be my religious faith then, Nathan.
What I'll do, Anthony, is just so we can get past Earth curve that you haven't proven, I'll let you beg the question and then we'll move on.
So at 33.6 miles away, Nathan, if I'm begging my question with my religious view belief, I should see that that tower that's only 518 feet tall should be behind 605 feet of Earth curve. I shouldn't see it at all. However, with a little bit of magic refraction, I can bring back the tippy tops of it. And I'm going to argue, Nathan, that I've brought back the tippy tops of it because it genuinely does look like I've brought back the tippy tops of it.
Okay, well, before we move on to axial rotation, the calculations exclude perspective. So if you are to assert that the thing obscuring from the bottom up is an Earth curve of a given height, i.e. a hump between you and it, and the calculations entirely ignore the effects of perspective, i.e. that curve would be bigger because it's closer, it's just nonsense. The calculations have taken the effect of perspective and called it Earth curve.
So are you saying, Nathan, that because it's getting further away and it's getting smaller, it also drops behind the curve, but they calculate it based on its actual size of 518 feet?
No, nothing's falling behind any curve. Things just get smaller with distance. At a given size, it will disappear from bottom up due to its limited size. The smallest angle to anything in the distance is the bottom of it. That will disappear first. Look up Rayleigh criterion. It is a limitation of the angle that causes things to disappear bottom first, including this tower.
But Nathan, if you're letting me beg the question, then if I can beg the question, then it must be the case as well that this must be a bit of bringing back refraction from the tippy tops.
What refraction? If you're going to use refraction, you don't have refraction in the mathematics. So even if you do go to Mick West's refraction inclusive, claimed refraction inclusive calculations, it doesn't include refraction. It includes terrestrial refraction at 7/6 of the beg the question R value. Well, that's not refraction. That's an arbitrary 7/6R applied to a presupposition that we're on a sphere that they've demanded with the calculation that includes a radius value. This is preposterous and an absolute bloody outrage, and is definitely not proof of curve, Anthony. Come on.
Well, it's my religious view, and I think that you should accept my religious view because I've got a calculator that makes predictions.
What, Mystic make predictions? They're definitely not scientific predictions, are they? Have you got anything more to present on this matter, Anthony? Because I just want to move on to axial rotation. This is supposed to be housekeeping.
Well, you did ask for evidence of curve.
This isn't evidence of curve. This is evidence that you can assume your outcome and beg the question. That's all this is.
Well, I have to beg the question unless I can, otherwise I can't present my religion views.
Oh, mercy on you. How terrible that I have to let you use your religious belief to prove your religious belief. Nah.
So are you saying that there might be another explanation, Nathan?
Yeah. Stuff gets small. Very small stuff disappears. The bottom of anything that's against the deck that you're looking over will be the most limited angle and disappear first with distance, Rayleigh criterion, perspective, angle of incidence.
Do you know, I remind myself of Jose Gonzalez's light observation in the supermarket. That disappeared from the bottom first, didn't it?
Well, it also doubled in size when it reached the diffraction limit. Hey, Plain Truth, welcome back. See if you're working.
Hello.
Much better. Yeah, so it splits in two. I have no idea why it does this. It's just something that it consistently does with everything. So you always find that at that most limited angle, it causes what we have been calling an atmospheric effect, a mirage, right? Well, it does mirror itself below itself, but so does Jose's light when he reaches the most limited of angle. You see the light split in two, get twice as bright, and then vanish completely at the most limited of angle. Well, that's what we see consistently, unless there's something in the near foreground obscuring it like a bloody wave.
So are you saying that these evidences of curvature are not actually evidence of curvature, Nathan?
Yeah, second time. No, evidence that you can beg the question.
But that means I've got no religion anymore, Nathan.
You can still keep your religion. You can still believe if you exclude all aspects of perspective and then claim that the demand of an earth curve being the presupposition that you will hold to means it's proven, then you can accept that as a faith.
Hallelujah. Praise our.
Praise our.
Move on.
Let's move on. Unless there is actually anything you wanted more to add to this before I take you off screen.
No, we're good, we're good. Let's move on, unless Zinda wants to add.
I didn't want to interrupt you because it was so beautiful, your conversation. And I was wondering how much was scripted and how much did you make up on the way?
All of it was made up.
Was everything improvised?
It was all made up.
It was all scripted.
All scripted, yeah.
How you doing?
I think a part was scripted, like the part was made up on the way. So I think it was a beautiful conversation that you had.
Well, if you want me to credit the scriptwriter, the scriptwriter was DITRH. It was hot off the presses about 2 hours ago. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. We can move on. Thank you.
So, yeah, moving on. Any signs of axial rotation?
No. Zinda?
Anybody at all? Axial rotation?
Yeah, sure. Foucault pendulum.
I had to find it in the script.
Oh, excellent. I heard something interesting there. Foucault pendulum.
Yes.
Excellent. Take me through that.
If you take a pendulum and let it swing from north to south, you can measure the axial rotation somehow, somewhat, whatever. But yeah, that's it.
Really?
Hey, P.
Is the Foucault pendulum attached to the Earth, or is it free and suspended in midair?
Well, it is in some way. It is attached to the Earth.
Okay.
No, but as I understand it, Zinda, correct me if I am wrong. The separate reference frame of the Earth rotating beneath the pendulum causes the pendulum to precess. Correct?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah.
Well, correct. That is what they say. That is what the Foucault pendulum does. So they assert that the reason you see it rotating and knocking down all the dominoes in those walls that they have them set up in is because it's the Earth turning underneath the pendulum in its separate reference frame. You understand that, right? That's how it proves that the Earth is turning underneath the pendulum. You get that, right?
Different reference frames. Yes.
Right. 2 different reference frames. So, if the pendulum is in a separate reference frame from the Earth rotating underneath, why do plane journeys not take different durations west to east and east to west?
Well, they sometimes do when they fly from, let's say, or Europe to North America. They take the jet stream, which makes them fly faster. And
oh, okay. So why is it that when a helicopter takes up in the air and hovers, why does the Earth not rotate underneath that helicopter like it rotates underneath the pendulum?
Because it keeps the same momentum, the helicopter, as the Earth turning.
No, sorry, we've just got it absolutely clear from this Foucault pendulum, Zinda, that they are 2 reference frames.
Yeah, it enters a reference frame which is slower, and then it enters one that is a little bit faster from north to south. Right,
that's not what happens, Zinda. The helicopter takes off and stays above the ground. The Earth does not continue to rotate underneath, as would be suggested if they were, as the Foucault pendulum suggests, separate reference frames. If they're not separate reference frames, then the helicopter will not experience any rotation underneath it. But the Foucault pendulum seems to be suggesting that they are separate reference frames, Zinda. This is a contradiction. Do you understand that?
I understand what you're saying, but the helicopter doesn't go from north to south, from etc.
Oh, sorry, does the pendulum fly from north to south? Or does it just remain above the Earth that it's attached to? I think you'll find that, like the helicopter, Zinda, the pendulum remains above its exact position, but apparently the Earth turns underneath, according to you and Foucault. However, the same effect cannot be said of a helicopter now, can it?
Well, the helicopter, usually hovers above the Earth. Let's say it stays there, right?
Yes, in a separate reference frame, Zinder.
Well, you can consider it the same reference frame.
Not according to Foucault, you blithering moron. You've just said it's separate according to Foucault. That's the contradiction. Do you now understand the contradiction, Zinder?
I understand what you're saying.
Excellent. So Foucault's definitely not a proof that the Earth's turning. Definitely not. Should we move past this, or would you like to go round in circles for 20 minutes, Zinder?
I just want to add that the Foucault pendulum, it enters a different reference frame.
Yes, unlike helicopters, which would suggest that a helicopter would fly into the air and the Earth would continue to rotate underneath, and it does not. So let's move past Foucault, which absolutely does not prove the Earth is turning.
Well, let's move on. It's all right.
Hang on, Nathan. I don't think he says he understands the contradiction, but I think you're being a bit too quick to move off it and do it with nice rather than aggression. Do it slowly. Kill him slowly with this, because if he doesn't see the contradiction,
Zinder, if there's two reference frames, like Foucault suggests, then the helicopter would have the Earth turning underneath as well. But it doesn't. Do you get it now?
I love it. It's great, dude. So, so the Foucault pendulum doesn't care about east to west. It only cares about north to south. There's a difference. That's why the helicopter that hovers up above the Earth and stays there doesn't get affected by the Coriolis effect.
Sorry, so you're saying the helicopter has one reference frame then?
Well, you could consider it the same reference frame as the
So
Earth.
no, so completely in contradiction to your example with the Foucault pendulum then, as has been stated to you 3 times. No, Anthony, I'm not going to go around in circle with a buffoon for 20 minutes. Listen to the show afterwards, Zinder. If you don't get the contradiction then, no problem, I'll explain it on a new show. But we're supposed to be keeping house clean. There's definitely no proof of axial rotation, and Foucault has a glaring contradiction, which I've now pointed out 3 times. I'm tired of it. So
yeah, let's move on.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Foucault pendulum. Just kidding.
Yes, of course. Foucault's pendulum.
Gravity is
excellent. This is new. Me, I was under the impression there was no scientific evidence of gravity. Feel free to present it, Zinder.
Oh no, I just said Foucault pendulum. It was a joke. I don't have anything to present.
Okay. Yeah, Foucault pendulum is just there to basically laugh in the face of Globers who think it proves you have 2 separate reference frames. Because if that was the case, yeah, the helicopter would still be turning underneath, the Earth would be going underneath it. Anyway, so no scientific evidence of gravity? Anybody?
Scientific evidence of gravity. I heard somebody make a claim on gravity. Can't remember what it was now. I laughed at it. It went in and then I forgot about it half a second later, but it was humorous for that half second whilst it registered. We'll have to move on. I can't remember what the claim was now.
Right, we talked about it like for 2.5 hours. I think we shouldn't go there anymore.
We spoke about gravity. Did we?
Like on Orwin show, we debated about it like for 2.5 hours about gravity, right?
I can't remember if I'm honest. Obviously, you lost.
No, but go on.
Great. Let's present it now then. What is your evidence for gravity?
No, we talked about the Cavendish experiment, which you brought up. So it's.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah,
well,
you remember?
Do the Cavendish thing again?
No, let's not do that anymore, dude. It's we already did it for like 2.5 hours, so
I don't mind.
Let's move on.
You wouldn't admit defeat.
I've never heard of this Cavendish experiment. Presumably it has a formulated hypothesis with an independent and dependent variable and systematic experimentation to back it. So let's hear about the hypothesis for the Cavendish, if you don't mind.
Okay, what I'll do, Nathan, I'll present the paper because a lot of ballers don't really understand this, but they claim it supports the idea that they live on a sphere. Now, it only supports the idea that we live on a sphere if it supports the idea that we live on a sphere, but we need to see a little bit of context. So, let me... bear with me while I get it. Right, so I need to screen share now. Okay, so this is claimed to be evidence of gravitational attraction. But the problem, this is his actual paper. But the problem is, if it's evidence of gravitational attraction, we need to know like how it's quantified. We need to know what is the context, how it all works. So we need to go back to page 1, because this is the opening page. And this is, first off, it's an experiment to determine the density of the Earth, right? It's not actually an experiment to demonstrate, or an observation to demonstrate gravitational attraction. So if this is the claim by Ballers, it would have to be a little bit more precise. Anyway, at the bottom of page 2, it reads, as the force with which these balls are attracted by these weights is excessively minute, not more than 50 millionth of their weight, it is plain that a very minute disturbing force will be sufficient to destroy the success of the experiment. So the problem is, it's a 50 millionth of any object's mass. That is the force of attraction, a 50 millionth, right? And a lot of
How
ballers
do you even calculate that?
Well, that's another. A lot of ballers try and put this in my mouth that I'm calling this a probability, right? A 50 millionth of an object's mass is a ratio. So stop trying to stop trying to gaslight me by saying something that I am not claiming.
You did say that.
Million.
Sorry.
No,
you compared it to a lottery. You compared it to a lottery, right? Many times.
I do compare it to a lottery because that I mean, if there was £1 million in your bank, or $1 million, or $1 million in your bank account, but it was in pennies, it was in like cents. £1 million worth of cents in your bank, you'd have to have a vault, right? So you need a big space to do it because that's a lot of metal. If I took 2 cents out of that $50 million,
oh come on, Anthony, just concede that you made a false equivalency. You did.
Right, but it was. But it still makes the point that it's a minuscule amount that you guys believe is like the whole force of the weight, and it's not. It's a 50 millionth, right? It's a tiny amount.
I am pleased to hear that you now definitely do get the correct equivalency, which is to say that if you had 50 million in what is it? It is 50 million, yeah. If you had 50 million in your bank, it'd be like trying to find £1. If you had all of that in pound coins and you went through to find one specific pound coin, right?
Or if you had £1 million, it was 2 pence. All it'd be.
Why change the maths? Why not just have it be 50 million £1 coins? Why do you need to change it into a different fraction?
Those numbers, it's like nobody can really relate to it. It's such a big number that like £50 million, it's huge. But if you had £1 million in the bank, you know you could buy a decent house with that. But if I stole 2 pence out of it, you're not going to notice it because it's such a minuscule amount. So my point is that even if we give you that you can measure a 50 millionth of an object's weight, unless you're God himself, how are you going to manipulate that force to prove that it is the thing that you think it is, and it's not a bumblebee flying past and it's the draft from his wings that's creating the butterfly effect on the opposite side of the room? You know what I mean?
No, I totally get it.
You have to be God himself to be able to prove gravity in science because you can't manipulate the gravitational force. That's
the main point. Absolutely. I'm going to repeat that because this 50 million to 1 nonsense is just nonsense. You know, that's his extrapolation based on his presuppositions, and he's looking for a needle in a haystack. That might be true, but that's his needle in his a haystack that he's invented. It's not a scientific experiment. It doesn't have a dependent and an independent variable. It doesn't have a formulated scientific hypothesis. It doesn't have an observed phenomena. You can't manipulate the cause of the effect. It's not an experiment. It's not science. It's pseudoscience. It's a circus sideshow.
And the other thing is, we have 2 ballers like in the likes of Sly Sparkane and Miles Lye Davis, who claim that they've repeated this in their bedrooms. If want for a better word, it might have been a different room. But listen to this PhD level professor in a university. Listen to what he actually says. He says it's very difficult to get it to work. Well, if it's very difficult to get it to work, why is it that you have to get it to work? Shouldn't it be doing it all by itself? And listen to what he says.
A year. There's another set of lead balls inside there. This experiment really is very difficult to get to work, and a technician has sawed it apart. So because he got so
very difficult to get it to work, and a technician has sawed it apart. Did you guys hear that?
Right.
I heard it.
Yeah, I heard it.
Right,
yeah,
so
it's difficult.
It's very difficult to get to work and it had to be sawed apart. What's the chances of somebody like Sly Sparkane and Miles Dyer Davis getting it to successfully work in the bedroom when being in the room is supposed to influence the result? Because obviously Cavendish himself had to observe it with a telescope from the other room so that his own body mass didn't influence the result. Yeah, you got Miles Deliah Davis and Slice Barkane repeating it in the bedroom with styrofoam boards. It's utter garbage.
Well, many people claim to have done the experiment, and I have a video of
who cares?
someone
Many
who
in Santa.
It's not an experiment.
There are videos of it.
That's the problem. It's not an experiment. The setup, the apparatus is where you conjure the phenomena. Well, if you are to adhere to the scientific methods, indeed, step one is observe a phenomena in the natural world, not hold up a garbage piece of crap and say you can't quite get it to work. Well, that's your phenomena that you're conjuring that some people can't get to conjure. Well, that's a bit of a problem when step one is observe a phenomena, not conjure one.
Yeah. So you don't, of course, you don't accept when I create a phenomena. It doesn't, right? You don't accept it as scientifically.
No.
Okay.
You're trying to explain what happens in the physical and natural world.
Yeah.
Explain what you see, what you observe, right? The phenomena you observe in the natural world is something that you need to explain. That's what science deals with. Well, if you're conjuring something, I can tell you what made that effect, if you want to call it an effect. Man made it.
So, in terms of science, the natural world is everything that isn't metaphysical. It is everything that is physical. So you making an object, or you creating an experiment is natural.
Oh, really? So there's toaster oven theories, is there, Zinder?
What?
Is there a toaster oven theory in science? That's a scientific thing to have a theory on, is it? Toaster ovens? No. Not man-made objects, my friend. Physical and natural. I.e. not man-made?
Well, I think we should move on if we don't agree on the definition of natural in science. So
if you think a toaster's natural, if you think a toaster's natural for the toaster oven laws in science from the man-made object that you're going to claim is a phenomena, making toast is not a phenomena. That's been made by man. Man made a toaster. That created the toast. There's your cause and effect relationship. Don't need to science it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I know it. I made the toaster, but
right, you made lead balls in a shed. Let's move on. You made lead balls in a shed, then claim that they're attracting one another. That's you, a man, making balls in a shed. Cause, man making balls. That's what the cause is. Yeah? Not mass attracting mass. Phenomenon? Not mass attracting mass. If you can show me in the natural world mass attracting mass, and then vary and manipulate a cause of that mass attracting that mass, then I might accept it as a phenomena. But you don't have that. You conjure mass attracting mass, what is supposed to be your observed phenomena in the physical and natural world, in the apparatus itself.
So if I take two magnets and put them next to each other, at some point they will move towards each other, right? So it isn't natural because I put the magnet on the table. So magnetism isn't natural.
What's your point? What's your point? Cavendish isn't dealing with magnetism. He's dealing with gravity.
But it's exactly the same thing.
Oh, really?
It's the analogy that matters here.
Sorry, no, I mean, the experiment is what matters, not your crappy analogy after the fact. Fact, he is claiming to prove gravity, whereas it is not scientific, because it does not have an observed phenomena.
Well, is it natural when I take a magnet and put it next to another magnet, when they move, is the movement of the magnet, is it natural or is it man-made?
We're not studying magnetism. Second time I've said it to you. Why are you giving me this false equivalency? I don't need to know about the cause of magnetism by looking at Cavendish, do I?
No, you don't, but I made
so who cares?
Example with
who
Cavendish then.
Cares? That's an equivalency that does not belong here. The question on the table is there any scientific evidence of gravity? And we've got a claimed experiment that does not have a valid hypothesis and does not have an observed phenomena.
All right, let's move on then. Let's say Cavendish doesn't prove it because we have a different definition of natural. Go on.
No, it doesn't prove it because it's not science. It's pseudoscience, circus trickery. That's what it is. Unless you can tell me the hypothesis, Cinder. Let's not agree to disagree. Just say, no, I'm right, it has got a hypothesis, and then give it me.
Well, I think mass attracts mass, and it doesn't matter if it is gravity or whatever. I just think something made those objects move in the Cavendish experiment or in the Cavendish test, whatever.
So you're saying it's mass attracting mass, but the reason doesn't matter. So the effect is mass attracting mass. That's the phenomena, the observed phenomena that we don't see happening in the natural and physical world that's conjured in the experiment. That's the phenomena. But the cause of that phenomena, the thing you're going to science, that doesn't matter. Well, that's the thing he's trying to prove, Zinder. Gravity? The cause of that effect?
Yeah, I just want to know if mass attracts mass. I don't want to know the cause yet. I just want to establish it first.
No, mass doesn't attract mass. You show me a single instance in the physical and natural world where mass attracts mass. Show it me.
Here, I can show you the video of someone replicating it. If you want.
Sorry, so rather than show me mass attracting mass in the physical and natural world, I'm asking you for step 1 in the scientific method. You're going to show me the Cavendish, making my point that the observed phenomena is conjured within the experiment. So you're literally going to make my point now.
Yes, I'm going to make your point.
You don't need to. I'll verbalise it again. You don't have an observed phenomena. When I ask you for one, you show me the experiment. The last step in the scientific method is presented when I ask for the first step. What's the observed phenomena? You're going to show me the experiment. That's the last step. You see a phenomena, then you formulate hypothesis. Then you go forward to validate or invalidate that hypothesis with systematic experimentation. The last step. I ask for your phenomena and you show me an experiment, which isn't an experiment, it's a circus sideshow.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find out what made those bottles move towards each other in this test.
Oh, I can tell you that. I can tell you that. Man put them on a torsion bar. But you built it. Itself. You built it. That's why they started attracting one another, because you built it in such a manner that they did. Or in some cases don't, which was Anthony's point. Some cases they don't attract each other, Zinder. It failed to even conjure the bloody observed phenomena within the pseudoscience claimed experiment. It doesn't attract one another in some instances.
Where did the energy come from to make those things move? I
mean, they don't. What part of this aren't you getting? You're now asking us to explain your pseudoscience phenomena that you've conjured. I don't care. It's your phenomena. Man made it. I've just given you the answer twice. Man made that phenomena, which it isn't, in the experiment, which it isn't.
Yeah, so when I build a car and to turn on the engine, I am the reason why. Yeah, go on.
All right, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you, but if we don't see mass attracting mass in real life, why do you give the Cavendish experiment so much credence? And it's not really an experiment, but why do you give it such credence? We don't see mass attracting mass in real life, man.
Isn't it real life when I put 2 bottles of whatever filled material and then see them attracting each other somehow moving towards?
How can you attribute that attracting to gravity, mass attracting mass? Could be anything. Could be electrostatic, could be magnetic, could be turbulence in the air. How do you extrapolate just that single force from 2 balls moving towards each other?
That's what I'm trying to find out. I mean, I try to eliminate every other possibility, and
but you don't. With the Cavendish experiment, you don't eliminate those possibilities. You just have a torsion bar and 2 masses. How can you exclude electrostatic forces? How can you exclude magnetic forces? How can you exclude turbulence? You don't.
Or even wind. Didn't the guy do it in a shed? Could it have been a crack in the board and wind could have moved it? I mean, come on.
The guy here in this YouTube video, he put it in a box where there isn't any wind, whatever.
Oh, right? That guy. Okay, I thought you were talking about Cavendish.
No problem. Many people replicated it. So you can.
Nobody didn't stop saying that. That's not true. There's no evidence to support that many people have done that.
Should I show you a video where like 10 people replicated it?
No. Please show me an example of mass attracting mass in the physical and natural world, as opposed to continually presenting the experiment as the phenomena. even though I've said that about 4 times now. This is not an observed phenomena, but you keep insisting on presenting it as such and then asking us to explain away your sideshow. Just show us mass attracting mass.
In mass attracting mass where people didn't get involved in it, right? Where like a tree or whatever, like in the nature, you want to see mass attracting mass.
Yeah, that's what science deals with. That's precisely the remit of science, to explain natural phenomena. Not toaster ovens, not balls in sheds made by men, not lawnmowers, but natural phenomena. So you first step, not experiment, first step, show me the natural phenomena of mass attracting mass.
Well, here is where we can't go further, because I have another definition of natural phenomena in this terms of scientific world. So
if it's not within the terms of scientific method, what is it in the terms of?
Well, I think a natural phenomena is everything in the scientific world that isn't metaphysical.
Oh, excellent.
It's just
excellent. So a toaster oven's definitely not metaphysical, is it, Zinder?
No, it isn't.
Take me to your toaster oven theory. The scientific theory of toaster ovens. Show it me.
It is a part of the natural world. I don't have to make a scientific...
so there'll be a theory on it then, right? So it's part of the natural world, and obviously toaster ovens are scientifically valid to explore the cause of toaster ovens, because that's what science does, Zinder. Finds out the cause of an effect. You think there's toaster oven effects, right? That's a natural phenomena, toaster oven. What kind of moron are you?
Well, let's say the quantum theory, right? Let's take that for an example, where they made the double slit experiment and everything. So everything that comes from the quantum theory isn't scientific because it isn't in the natural world, right?
Yeah, it is.
So
they're observing light. They're observing the presence of light, whether or not it forms. Yeah, that light, whether or not it's observed, that's the cause in that instance. With the double slit experiment, the cause, based on the quantum eraser, is shown to be the knowledge of the witch path. That's the cause of whether or not you get an interference pattern or not. That's the cause. They scientifically validated it through systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis.
Yeah, but human created the light. I mean,
Zinder, the phenomena was the light, a naturally occurring phenomena, and what it does based on whether or not you see it. The independent variable, the cause, was knowledge of the which path that light would travel through. If you know the path, then it dictates what will happen on the other side. That's the independent variable, knowledge of the which path. That's the cause in the cause and effect relationship. I.e., if you look at it, you get an interference, you get a single, going through a single slit, and if you don't look at it, it doesn't.
Well, can you make the same observation in the natural world where humans didn't interfere with it?
No, that's the point. If
so
you don't, you're not listening.
Then.
The cause is knowledge of the witch path, whether or not you observe it. So by definition, you cannot interfere with it if you're not observing it.
Yeah, I understand.
Right, so how can that possibly... So how is that man-made, Zinder? You're talking about the observation of light. Yeah, that's a very natural occurring phenomena. Unlike a bloody toaster oven. The fact that you have to set up apparatus to isolate the variables, in other words, produce a single particle of light, that isn't making the apparatus the thing that you are trying to scientifically validate the cause of.
But people had to put on mirrors, they had to put in those 2 slits, then they had to put in an aperture to observe the phenomena.
Yes.
Etc., right?
Yes,
I mean,
you said it, Zinder. You said it, Zinder. To observe, or in this case, not observe, the independent variable cause of the effect, the phenomena. So yes, they have to have scientific equipment to perform a an experiment. That is necessitated. But you are not causing the effect of the equipment. You are studying the effect of a naturally occurring phenomena, something that Cavendish doesn't have. You can still have light not being observed or being observed in the physical and natural world, Zinder. Cavendish, on the other hand, doesn't have any capability of demonstrating mass attracting mass.
So I say the observation, the natural observation in the Cavendish is things moving. Now I'm trying to find out why they move in a certain way, right?
You think
in the
think
same
his,
way I
sorry,
observe
sorry,
light
Zinder, I've got to stop you. You think his effect, the natural phenomena observed, is things moving?
Well, I'm trying to find out why they move in a certain way when he puts mass next to each other.
Yeah, that's a caveat of a man doing something, isn't it, Zinder? So again, we're back to the same position where you want to explain the cause of what happens when a man does something to a couple of lead weights. A man did something to a couple of lead weights, therefore they had an effect. That's the cause and effect relationship. Man made it.
Same way in the quantum experiment.
No, the observed phenomena is the light.
Which the light had to travel through the double slit, which the
no,
man put
it would
there.
still have the same effect if it was light without a double slit. That is part of the apparatus. If you observe or do not observe a light particle or many light particles, you're trying to isolate variables with the equipment, Zinder. That's what science does. Isolate the independent variable, the sole cause of the effect. The effect in this case being the observation of anything in reality that is made of not just light, but any particle, Zinder. They've scaled it up with things that are bigger than light, and they get the same effect. The cause being knowledge of the witch path, an observation actually taking place in the first instance, is essentially what causes reality to happen. That's what was proved by quantum science. That is what, by definition, we have as our new science going forward when people like you finally understand that that is scientifically valid.
I think it is completely scientifically valid, the quantum experiment. I never said it isn't.
Because they isolated their independent variable and then systematically performed experimentation to validate their presumed cause as the cause of the effect. That's science, son, not Cavendish.
Yeah, I will back up my claims with some papers, etc., but I can't do it.
No,
right
you don't
now,
need
so
to back
I'm
it up with
going to-
papers.
Let's move on.
Ugh. Every time we get to near the end, I think I'm succeeding, and you say I'll back it up with papers. No, back it up with an observed phenomena of mass attracting mass, and then develop a way of systematically performing an experiment to validate a hypothesis that presumes the cause of that effect, because that would be science, not papers.
Yeah, all right. I give you the point, and let's move on. I will come back to it at some point. Thank you very much.
Excellent. only 45 minutes in. Any evidence of the distance to the sun? Where's Arwin when you need him?
Finished housekeeping?
No, I've asked what the evidence for distance to the sun is, Anthony.
So there is no evidence. No. We don't even know what the sun is, Nathan. We don't even know whether it's a gas, a liquid, a solid, or even if it's physical. We can't establish whether it's real or whether it's a metaphysical object that is the result of some kind of creative event, perhaps intelligent design.
Yeah, I talked about that on Patricia's show the other day, that you take things that are in the sky, intangible objects, as proof of intelligent design. I'm not disagreeing with that. It's not certainly my belief, but
no, I don't say that. I say that the moon seems to defy all physics, and the sun definitely because they can't even agree with what the sun actually is. They can't agree whether it's a liquid, a gas, or a solid. Well, that's kind of important if it's science, and it's supposed to be supporting science.
So in essence, we can't get a distance to an intangible light in the sky.
Not unless you've got some metaphysical measuring device.
Fair enough. Any evidence that we can have a gas pressure without a container? as asserted in the heliocentric model, i.e. we have gas pressure here and space is supposed to be a vacuum? Any evidence that that's actually possible?
We are living on a container. We live on a container.
Did you say on a container?
Yes.
That's not possible. That isn't how an antecedent works. In a container, I think you mean, don't you? In a container? A container contains
on
things.
Or in depends how you say it. Let's I can tell you what I mean, because a round ball or a round sphere, if you are on top of it, you could say, all right, you are on the container, or you can say you're in the container because of the atmosphere, etc.
Oh, right. So if I was to put you on a container with a lion, how well do you think you'd do in terms of that lion being contained from you on a container?
Well, I would hope that the lion goes into the container and I'm going to stay on the container. So
well, no, that would be what I said, though, isn't it, Zinder? That you would need to be in a container. You're now doing double speak to get around this problem. If you're on a container with a lion, do you think the lion's contained? Or if you put him in a container, like a cage, for example, which one of those two things do you think will keep you safe?
The lion in the cage, of course.
Oh, right. So in order for us to have gas pressure, Zinder, we need to be in a container, not on a container, because the latter makes no sense. You can't be on a container. Hey, physics warrior.
Yeah, then we live in a container, all right.
Oh, right. Yeah. What's containing us then, Zinder?
The Earth.
Yeah, it doesn't have a container. There's gas pressure next to a container, next to a vacuum in that religious belief of a sphere. There is no container. There's nothing at the top, just gas next to a vacuum.
No, the Earth is the container. I mean...
No, we've gone through this with the lions, Zinder. Yeah? On a container doesn't contain anything. You need to be in it. Yeah, you be quickly eaten by the lion while you rationalise with that lion that you're on a container while it eats you.
Yeah, then we are in the container.
Yeah, but we're not, though, are we, Zinder? Because we're next to a vacuum according to your bullshit religion.
Well, we still are in the container.
No, that's just your religious belief that on means in. It's not the same word. It means different things. That's why you're currently being eaten by me, a lion.
No, we are in the container when we are standing on Earth.
Oh, really? What's above us to press upon, then? If we're in a container, like the lion in a cage, it can press on the top of it. So, can we press on the top of something when we're on Earth, as opposed to in Earth?
We are in an open container, which is
Sorry, that's a contradiction in terms. You can't be in an open container. So if I open the top of the lion's cage, is he still in the container, or can he jump out and eat you, Zinder?
Well, is a glass a container? Is a glass open?
Yeah, so it's a glass container with an open top, like Earth is asserted next to the vacuum. Is that lion going to be contained or jump out of the glass container and eat you?
Well, if the glass is deep enough, or if the container is deep enough, he can't jump out because it is too high for him to go
Oh, really? So he can't shimmy up the sides? He can't climb?
No, he can't climb.
Oh, right. Oh, well, that's fortunate. That's a funny thing that you should instigate, that suddenly we have a very deep container. So we have a deep container with sides, do we? So we've got 3 dimensions to this container, Zinder. A bottom and sides. I've never seen a side anywhere. Where's this side? Do you want to show me the side of the container?
No, the Earth doesn't have a side.
Oh, so your example with the lion in a deep cage doesn't apply because Earth doesn't have sides. So we're back to it on the ground with you claiming to the lion that it's in a container while it eats you.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to get eaten by a lion.
No, and I wouldn't like to be next to a vacuum of space, considering that I'm breathing gas pressure. Fortunately, the gas pressure's still here, which tells me that space is complete nonsense, because you can't have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to be in, not on.
Well, isn't Earth by definition the container? But no, let's move on. Let's not circle around anymore. It was fun. It was really fun.
Fair enough.
It's just a word game now. Perfect.
Not a word game. Words have meanings. Words have meanings. So gas pressure needs to be contained. It needs something to press upon to give you a PSI value. And if you don't have that in your religious belief of spheres, then you don't have a vacuum of space. That's the point. You don't have space. Space is impossible. It can't exist. All these places you think you're travelling to in rockets? No. the necessary antecedent for that region would be a container to keep the gas that we definitely all experience here, i.e. a container. And we don't have one. We've got something to stand upon.
Zinder knows all these arguments.
Yeah,
like
I do.
He said it's just a word game for him. He's just having fun.
Let me ask you a question. Imagine we lived in a hot climate. Imagine we lived in a hot climate and we had a pool in the back garden. Imagine if we didn't top the pool up over a period of time. The sun would evaporate the water out of the pool, right?
At some point, yes, of course.
Yeah, eventually it'd get lower and lower and lower, and then eventually it'd just become a puddle, and then it'd become nothing. That's what would happen to our atmosphere if we lived in a vacuum over time. It'd just disperse into space, and it wouldn't take a lot of time, according to physics. It would be done pretty much instantaneously. But that concept of evaporation is just what would happen with the Earth dispersing its atmosphere into space. You can conceptualize the swimming pool. Why can't you conceptualize the Earth losing its atmosphere to space?
Well, that's a problem because we would have to go back to a downward force, and we already moved past it. So
yeah, we would
have to go back there. Yeah.
So no downward force, no atmosphere.
Yeah, that's a problem. I need the downward force to explain why the gas doesn't go out into space.
I've just remembered what the point I had with somebody the other day was. He said, well, we do see the atmosphere, so we must have a downward force. And I was like, oh, really? That sounds like a particular fallacy.
Yeah, it is a kind of strange fallacy, I think. So, yeah, let's move on.
Actually have about a 5 or 10 minute break while I say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this live debate. You also get to be privy to the pre-show if you tune into the premiering version of this show on Nathan Oakley 1980. If you're watching this on Nathan Oakley 1980, shortly after this show finishes, there'll be another premiering edition of the after show, which will be filmed in a moment, as confusing as that may sound. Also, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you are watching this in the premiering show and you hit the super chat, thanks to you as well. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!